What's up, Doc?
What's up, Doc?
Let's talk about one of the most debated aspects in American culture, the Second Amendment.
America!
It's something that often puzzles people outside of the US, especially in Europe and Asia. Why does America give its citizens the right to own firearms? Doesn't that lead to chaos and danger? Today, we're going to discuss some of the biggest myths surrounding the Second Amendment and explain what it's really about.
Shh! Be very, very quiet. We're hunting Elmas. Ha
One of the most common misconceptions is that the Second Amendment was created to allow people to hunt. After all, back in the 1700s, hunting was a way of life, right? Well, not quite. The Second Amendment was never about hunting. Its purpose was to ensure citizens could protect their liberties against tyranny, invasion, or personal threats. The text reads, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed." This wasn't about deer season. This was about ensuring that citizens could defend themselves from tyranny, invasion, or other threats. The Founding Fathers were fresh out of a war with a powerful empire. Remember that. They understood the importance of being able to resist oppression. Whether you think that's feasible or not, it doesn't matter. That's exactly what they were thinking. You have to think in the context of the time that this was written. So no, it's not about hunting. It's about multiple definitions of self-defense.
Ha! Got the drop on you with my disintegrating pistol! And brother, when it disintegrates, it disintegrates!
A lot of people think that the US has no restrictions on firearms, and that anyone can buy whatever weapon they want, including military-grade firearms. The reality? US gun laws are actually quite complex. There are strict regulations at the federal and state levels. For example, fully automatic weapons, you need a special, expensive license, and they're heavily restricted. The so-called gun show loophole is BS. So no, you can't just waltz into a store and buy whatever you want. The laws are stricter than many people realize. People who tried to buy one in 2020 found that out the hard way.
This is a stick-up, brother. Give me all your dough.
Here's another big one. People often assume that America's high crime rates are solely because of guns. After all, there are more guns in the US than people, right? Yes, the US has a high number of guns, but correlation doesn't equal causation. Crime rates are influenced by many factors, including socioeconomic conditions and gang activity. For instance,
where do you get a gun like this? Where did you get this gun?
We got off the streets, people sell them.
Switzerland has one of the highest rates of gun ownership in Europe, but have a very low crime rate. So it's not just about the number of guns. There's a broader societal context.
That's what I wanted to tell you. Slowpoke Rodriguez, he packed a gun.
Number 4 is the myth that only Americans really care about self-defense, and that this type of worldview is unnecessary and unique. Self-defense is a universal concern. For example, in the UK, knife crime has surged, prompting debates about self-protection. The difference here is that the Second Amendment explicitly enshrines the right to self-defense with a firearm. So no, self-defense is not a purely American obsession. No matter what country you come from, self-defense was high on your ancestors' priority list. When people think of American gun culture, they often think of mass shootings. The media coverage makes it seem like these tragedies define the Second Amendment. But here's the truth. Mass shootings, while devastating, account for less than 1% of all firearm-related deaths in the US. In fact, the majority of firearm deaths come from suicides, 54% according to the CDC. Addressing these issues requires focusing on mental health and other root causes, not just guns. Mass shootings receive disproportionate media attention, distorting perceptions of gun culture. Never forget the news saying, "If it bleeds, it leads." Vultures are an unfair nickname, as the vulture is only exercising its natural survival rights.
No more shells.
There's also a stereotype that gun owners in the US are untrained and irresponsible. You've probably seen movies or TV shows where Americans are portrayed as careless with firearms. Reality is very different. Most legal gun owners take safety seriously. Millions of Americans attempt firearm safety courses every year, and organizations like the National Shooting Sports Foundation promote extensive training programs. Accidental firearm deaths, by the way, account for less than 1% of all gun-related deaths. Some people believe that only the police and military should have firearms, arguing that this would make society safer. This blatantly ignores that history is full of examples where governments disarmed their populations and then oppressed them. Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, and other authoritarian regimes often began by taking weapons away from the people. The Second Amendment ensures that power ultimately rests with the citizens.
Along Daffy's my name. Anybody care to shoot it out? Man to man? Under western skies? West of the Pecos? 10,000 head the cattle?
Another common belief is that criminals in the US can just walk into a store and buy a gun as easily as they'd buy a loaf of bread. This simply isn't true. Federal and state laws prohibit gun ownership for felons, domestic abusers, and others deemed a danger to society. Legal purchases from licensed dealers require a background check to go through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS. If someone has a criminal record or a restraining order, they're flagged and denied a firearm purchase. But here's the thing, criminals don't follow the law. Most firearms used in crimes are stolen or purchased on the black market. The ATF has documented this extensively. Blaming legal gun sales for criminal activity ignores the reality of crime. Criminals do illegal stuff every day. So no, guns aren't easy for criminals to get legally. They acquire them through illegal means.
To draw a gun.
How's that, Chunky?
Say, that's a right smart picture you got there, partner.
Then there's the argument that stricter gun control always leads to a safer society. Countries like Japan and the UK are often cited as examples where gun laws are strict and gun violence is low. But the relationship between gun control and safety is more complicated than that. They totally ignore the human element of crime and culture. Mexico, for example, has very strict gun laws, but one of the highest homicide rates in the world, driven by cartel violence. Meanwhile, Vermont, a US state with constitutional carry, has a very low crime rate. Safety isn't just about laws, it's about addressing the underlying social, cultural, and economic issues.
In the warm summer sun where the girls have tulips that...
Just lean back and relax. Yankee Doodle went to town a-riding on a pony.
Yankee!
A feather in his hat.
And finally, the Second Amendment was designed exclusively for white landowners and is rooted in racial inequality. While early American society was flawed, the Second Amendment has empowered minorities throughout history. During the Civil Rights Movement, armed groups like the Deacons for Defense protected black communities from racist violence. Minority gun ownership is rising today, with many seeing firearms as a tool for personal and community protection. In fact, a lot of the gun laws that are on the books can be traced back to when the Black Panthers showed up for a rally armed and Reagan felt the need to do something about it. You can then say that gun control laws were actually designed to keep guns out of the hands of minorities.
Hey.
So if you've stuck around this long, it means that you want an explanation of why the 2A is such a hot-button issue for American culture today. It's simply because it's complex and often misunderstood, and just like a lot of things that get misunderstood, there's a lot of nuance that people in general tend to ignore. It's not just about guns, it's about freedom, responsibility, and the belief that citizens should have the means to protect themselves and their rights from any kind of threat. Whether you agree with it or not, the Second Amendment is a reflection of America's commitment to individual liberty. I've put up links that you can look up. I'll also leave them in the description so you can check out the information for yourself. I'm trying something a little different today. It's going to be a little bit more straightforward. If you came here looking to learn, I hope you did learn something. And hopefully this gets you thinking about why we have the 2A here in America. So until the next video, be good, stay safe, and have a good one.